Did we make a mistake while opening up after the first wave? Is it possible that we should have remained in a shutdown mode for longer? Should we have imposed a shutdown earlier? Let's try to understand. Hello everyone, welcome to RightVIEWS. I am Rahul. Now, opening up and shutting down and opening up are two difficult decisions for any government. Like we explained in the previous video, shutting down is basically to gain an advantage in terms of speed, to restrict the speed of the virus while we build out the pandemic response infrastructure. Opening up, like we discussed in that video, should be in proportion to the kind of infrastructure we have put up. However, in a country like India, opening up is, unfortunately necessary, because a lot of people are poor. They have their livelihoods dependent on this daily and weekly work that they are doing. It affects not only their employment prospects and their earning potential, but it also affects them psychologically, because they are trapped in small places, in cities, in towns where they cannot really go out. Most of these do not have a support structure to ensure or to carry them through this pandemic period, which is lasting more than a year now. We can have a support structure that can take you across, sustain you for a period of 2 months, 5 months, 6 months, but this is now 1.5 years almost before it will open up. So in countries like India, it is definitely going to be necessary. Opening up will be necessary. The two questions that we have to ask about opening up is how much of opening up should be allowed, and to what extent a protective or a preventive protocol should be imposed while opening up. Now, if you look at the countries which have been resilient to COVID, Singapore stands at number 1. Singapore essentially is fighting the virus using 4 things: mask, sanitizers, social distancing, and contact tracing. That's all. Using these 4 things in a more effective manner, in a more gradual opening up, Singapore was able to restrict the spread and the acceleration that we are seeing in the second wave in India. While we are opening up in India, we should have taken care to ensure that only the essential part of the services are opened. And most of the offices and companies where physical presence is not required, remote working is possible, you should have let it function remotely. Now, people, adults, can function remotely in many industries, but children, they need to have that interaction. Till now, it is believed that children are quite resilient to this virus. So opening up schools would have eased a lot of burden in this process. Now, in India, that is also not a very easy decision. It has to be taken on a town by town or area by area basis. So opening up is very localized. The reason why I am saying that is because if you open up in an area where children are, not only children but also adults get exposed to a different kind of virus, then in those areas opening up schools would have been much more difficult. In other localities, in smaller towns particularly, it might have been better to open up schools so that it eases the burden and the pressure on the families. Now, these are very difficult decisions to be taken at a local level. In India, we are going to face this second wave, and we are facing it in much more challenging times, but we will overcome it. The question is, how well will we prepare for the third wave? And it is coming. It is coming. If Spanish flu is any example to go by, the third wave may be more benign. But many are arguing that the COVID virus itself, the coronavirus, is not fully natural. There are some interventions and human manipulations that might make it a little more different than other virus. We don't know. We cannot assume that it will be benign. We have to prepare all the same. We have to put in place all the infrastructure. We have to gather the medicines. We have to have oxygen. We have to have sanitizers. We have to have PPE. Everything should be ready so that we can tackle the third wave properly, not slacken off. We have to remember the 7 P's. Prior planning and preparation prevents piss poor performance. The more sensible approach the population takes to opening up, the more we can open up. So if compliance to preventive protocols like masks, sanitizers, social distancing is high, we can open up more. But if it's not that I want to see a test match crowd just jumping out in the in the stadium without any mask, that is absolutely, they are maintaining some social distance, that's fine, but that's not adequate. Let's also show that this is important and this is being taken care of. That's where the next very important point comes into play in this debate of opening up and shutting down. That communication is the ultimate weapon, and communication has been messed up in India particularly. But communication has to be precise. You can't have a communication that masks don't matter. At the same time, your congregations, the gatherings are increasing. This will lead to more infections. So this is a psychological experiment in communication. For example, in a park, if you show a neat and clean park, then no litter, then people don't litter on that park. On the other hand, if you show a picture of a park which is littered and say don't litter, people actually litter. So if you show more people with masks, people will start wearing masks more often. If you show more people without masks, people will not wear masks. This is the psychological aspect of communicating importance of mask. If you want importance of mask communicated, then always praise people who are wearing masks. Focus saying that this town has got 95% compliance of masks. Everyone wears masks properly. Very nice. Look at that. And then every town will try to replicate or challenge and meet these kinds of high standards. But if you show low standards, people will try to beat the low standards by going even lower. That's not what you want. It is very important to get the messaging and communications right. And in this case, particularly in India, we have failed. We need to ensure and talk to the people that the reason why opening up is possible is because you are wearing masks. If you stop wearing masks, if you stop social distancing, you have to go into shutdown. People are understanding this now in the second wave practically, but this should have been the message from day one. Singapore, Taiwan, Korea, they have been hammering at this message right from day one because they have experience of SARS from 2003. It's time we woke up and fix our messaging. We want opening up. We cannot afford lockdowns. But to ensure opening up, A, we need to have adequate pandemic response infrastructure in place, and B, high level of compliance of preventive protocols. If we have that, we can have more of opening up. If you like this video, please subscribe to our channel, follow us on our social media pages, join us for a long form discussion on our podcast, and thank you for listening.